I'm very grateful to be here. Actually, my name is Moses Deng, not Deng Bull. Yeah. Sometimes I'm being confused with Deng, Archbishop Daniel Deng. I want to greet all the listeners and all the South Sudanese. So far, the progress has been slow, but it is going well. According to my observation. Yeah, it is improving because when the new government delegation came, there was a stalemate, especially on the issue of the name, of the new name, because the opposition over the Christmas break, they formed a new outfit which brought all the parties together under one umbrella called the United People's Alliance, and the government was not happy for that. So there was a kind of a stalemate. But so far, the progress, we are seeing progress taking place, although it is a bit slow.
And to connect this to the two heads of the delegations from the government and the opposition co-chairing the discussion on the root cause of the conflict, and according to one of your colleagues, one of the delegates here yesterday, who said the atmosphere was positive and it was encouraging. Is that true?
Yes. In fact, there are photos now of Honorable Kwalmanyang and Honorable Pagana Mom. Really, when they were chairing the session, they had light moments where they smiled to each other, and it was very encouraging. Many South Sudanese have been sharing it on many forums of the South Sudanese WhatsApp and other forums. So there was really a change in the mood and even in the discussions.
And you said there's a little progress, but then it is slow. Why do you think it's slow, Archbishop?
Well, it is slow because there are contentious issues that the parties have not been able to resolve. For example, the issue of the name, which I mentioned earlier, and also the issue of the relationship between the R-Access and the Tumaini consensus, which were initialed in July last year. These have been the contentious issues, and those are the ones that make the progress a little bit slow.
And what has been the position of the stakeholders, especially religious leaders, regarding the root causes of the conflict agenda?
Well, for us as faith-based leaders and also the rest of our colleagues in the stakeholders, we believe that the root causes of the conflict, we have mentioned them. They include leadership failure, they include governance, they include issues of economic corruption and all of those. So we have mentioned them. We actually list 6 areas that covers what we think are the root causes of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan.
And have you, as the stakeholders, also come up with the way forward as solutions to these?
Yes, we did. We did propose what we think will be the solution, and some of them really, when it comes to leadership, we propose a real democracy where people of South Sudan are given the opportunity to elect their leaders, and for the leaders also to come to the people and to share their vision. What will they do to the people, so that the people can choose who they think will serve them well.
So when you talk about people selecting or electing their leaders, meaning you're referring to elections like should happen according to the roadmap of the revitalized peace agreement? Tumaini is coming up with another option for elections.
Exactly. Every peace agreement in South Sudan must end with the elections, because we cannot continue governing by peace agreements and extension of peace agreements. It cannot continue like that forever. So we have to at least move away from this transition, and the only way to do that is to go for elections, so that the people of South Sudan elect their leaders after every 5 years.
And I understand, according to the program from the mediation, the parties are expected actually to conclude or to end this agenda of the root causes. Is that really what's going to happen today?
Well, that is according to the program, that is what is going to be discussed today. And actually, for the first time, we have seen the mediation has put, as you mentioned earlier, all the 4 agendas that were agreed upon between the government and the opposition in line up to Monday the 10th. So it seemed like also the Kenyan mediation are a little bit getting frustrated with the slow progress being made.
So you think they are pressuring the parties now?
I think so. They are trying to let the parties know that we cannot continue forever. We have to tackle these issues and bring the mediation to a conclusion, so that at least the people of South Sudan can celebrate the peace.
And why we were expecting the parties to meet yesterday? What happened? Why was it adjourned, or why was it pushed to today?
I think one of the parties made a request because the response of the government delegation to the proposed root causes of the conflict by the opposition and the stakeholders was long, and the opposition and the stakeholders were to study and also to make a summary of the government's response. And so I think it may have been from the opposition that made the request to at least give them 1 day to complete their response to the government response on the root causes that were proposed by them and the stakeholders.
So are we expecting the stakeholders to present something today, and what is in the document or the details you can share with the people of South Sudan?
Yeah, basically we are going to present, and basically, as I mentioned earlier, we mentioned the root causes will include the leadership failure, the governance, the economic, the corruption, and we have proposed how those one can be tackled, and it is a lot, too many details. So
you can mention
I will not. Yeah,
you can mention some of them.
Yes,
like
I did mention the issue of the elections. The best way forward for South Sudan is to that is on the governance and leadership side. Then on the economic, we encourage the operationalization of public finance management policy in order to make sure that all the resources of the public are managed well, and this corruption is at least reduced. And so those are the proposed solutions to the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan.
And in your view, Archbishop, what do you think is the reason? Why do you think there's leadership failure in South Sudan? And with all these challenges, the issue of judiciary, the issue of army, reforming the army, reforming critical institutions, like you mentioned, for instance, anti-corruption commission. Why do you think all these are happening in the country?
The number one reason why there is a leadership failure is because of lack of vision. There is no leadership without a vision. And you are a South Sudanese. Tell me, where are we going? When we were in the bush, we were going to New Sudan. Everybody knew we are on New Sudan. And if you ask the leaders at that time, they will tell you what New Sudan is, what it means. It is a country of equality, of all ethnic groups, of men and women, of all people of different faith. And today, where is South Sudan going? So the biggest challenge why there is a leadership failure is because we have no vision. We have no, after independence, we did not give a direction where we are going. And actually this is a leadership failure that resulted in all the rest. The rest are just indication of the failure of leadership. Corruption is because we have not shown the leaders, the government leaders, the ministers, and the rest where to use the funds. So they decide when you are given a ministry, you take it and then You use the resources there maybe to marry more women or to build houses wherever you want to build them. It is basically a failure of leadership because we lack vision. We don't know where we are going.
And do you believe, and how do you think Tumaini can address all these challenges?
And by the way, the Bible says very clearly, if people don't know where they are going, you will fall in the pit. Our hope and prayer is that with Tumaini, together with RXS, we will be able to push a way forward as people of South Sudan. What is our national vision as a country? So that whoever is leading the country knows this is the direction is taking the people to. And the people will also own it. If you don't take them there, they will ask you, why are you not taking us to what we have agreed?
Right. And now from, if the parties agree to, or if the parties discuss and conclude the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan agenda, what's next after that?
Well, as it is being put in the agenda, the first now is the root causes. After this, we are going to the relationship between RXS and the Tumaini initiative or consensus. And then the third one is the power sharing or the responsibility sharing. And finally, we go back to the agenda that was packed. It was actually agenda number 1, but because it was blocking the progress, and it was packed, and that is the issue of the name of the opposition.
So when we talk about relationship between RRCs and Tumaini, what are we expecting to be discussed, for instance? What is that relationship thing?
Well, in the relationship, there are 2 things that have come out clearly. Number 1 is the issue of the mechanisms that are being put in the RXS, the implementation mechanism. The Tumaini consensus, which was initial last year, proposed either a replacement or readjustment of some of the RXS mechanisms. So that is number 1. Number 2, what is it going to be called? Because the government is proposing that Tumaini consensus should be annexed to the RXS, which means the RXS is the main agreement, and then whatever the agreement that is being done will be annexed to it. The opposition here is proposing that Tumaini should actually incorporate the ongoing task and the pending tasks of the RXS, and then Tumaini should take over, just like RXS took over from Access. Yes, or the roadmap. Yes, something like that, and that is where the disagreement is coming from.
And what about the position or the view of the stakeholders on this? Do you have any suggestion of maybe how Tumaini can complement RRCs, or how the two can complement one another, or hybrids, or something like that?
First of all, what we are saying as stakeholders, we are saying actually it doesn't matter what the name is. What is important is the peace. That is being that we have peace. The people of South Sudan are enjoying peace, and so we are saying there are 2 possibilities. Number 1 is the 2 can be merged, so that you call it RXS Tumaini, RXS Tumaini agreement. You can merge the 2.
RXS Tumaini agreement.
or you can actually look at incorporate Tumaini into RXS, and then you call it revitalized agreement, or you call it incorporated revitalized peace agreement. Whatever the name is not the issue. The issue is we want peace. We want our people not to die. We want our people not to be displaced. We want our people to enjoy the dividend of peace.
But there's this many people back home are casting doubts, especially when it comes to agreements, because they have experience of extension of the revitalized peace agreement, have it in roadmap more than 6 years now, and only maybe according to reports about 10% has been implemented. And what makes you think Tumaini can really take over, can really change the situation back home there on the ground?
What made me think that Tumaini will be implemented is that the people of South Sudan are actually waking up now. Like even myself, I used to think that the politician have a goodwill for us. They will do everything in the best interest of the people. And there is the international community, there are IGAD, there are the African Union and the UN, and they will work for us. So far I have discovered, and the people of South Sudan have also realized, that actually it will take us. Whoever is coming to help us will be only supporting us, and it is us to take the lead. And we have also realized that the politicians do not actually put the interests of the people first. They put their own interests and the interests of their parties were number one, and then now the interest of the people maybe number 3 or 4 or 5. So it is the people of South Sudan that should take responsibility of their own country, and that is the only way any agreement is going to be implemented, whether it is our access to Tumaini or any other agreement.
How can they do that?
Well, number one, you leave tribalism, you unite and claim your rights. You are a citizen, you have rights and you have responsibilities. One of the rights is that you demand the right to elect your leaders, because it is enshrined in the constitution. We don't have kingdoms in South Sudan. What we have is a democracy, and as I said earlier, the constitution is very clear. After every 5 years, the people of South Sudan should go to polls to elect their leaders. And if you have a vision, you have something that you can offer to the people, you go to the people. Tell them that I want to be your leader because I will do 1, 2, 3 for you. And so this is our right, and we should not allow politicians to sit after every 2 or 3 years of extension, and then they say, we wrote article number 8.4, and now that article, because we are the one who wrote, we are going to extend ourselves, we will use this article to extend ourselves. It is not the people who wrote it, it is the same leaders. So the people must demand their rights. They must unite and demand their right. But as long as we are saying, oh, it is the Nuer, it is the Zande, it is the Shuluk, it is the Dinka, we are not going to go anywhere. So we must unite and claim our rights from the leaders. Let them come to us, we elect them.
Right. You earlier talked about the mediation is probably frustrated and it doesn't want this process to take long. So, in your view, how best can this Tumaini peace initiative be finalized, and how can we wrap up all this process as soon as possible to be signed?
Basically, there are two things that the leaders here should look at, and even the leaders within South Sudan. Number one is, let us put the interest of the people first. I know politics is about my interest and the interest of my party, but if the people get frustrated, they can leave the leaders. And people are getting there right now. So let us put the interest of the people of South Sudan who are suffering everywhere, within the country and in the people who are being slaughtered recently in Sudan. It is very humiliating. So that is number one. Number two, let us really leave these small things, the issue of names, the issue of relationship. Let us look at what can bring peace to the people of South Sudan, so that at least the South Sudan can begin to move forward, rather than being locked down in violence. And
Now, before we pick few calls from our listeners back home there, I want you to a little bit talk about the recent initiative by church leaders from the capital, Juba, there for the church initiative about peace, to bring on board or to engage those who are not part of RRCs and not part of Tumaini Peace Initiative. And that brings me to also the issue of this question repeatedly being asked by the public about those who are not part of Tumaini. How can they be part of this process? And we talk about inclusivity. So dwell more on the initiative from religious leaders from Juba recently.
Well, this initiative is actually not new. It has been there. It's only that we did not expose it, because, some of the issues of getting engaged in the what we call chattel diplomacy, you don't really want to make them public before they bear fruit. So that initiative was underground, and there were some selected church leaders who were following that up. And the aim basically was to bring to reach out to the leaders, as you mentioned earlier, who were not part of the RXS and were not part of the Tumaini. One of especially General Thomas Cirillo and General Simon Gadwich. We had asked some of our church leaders to reach out to them, but we did not want to make it public because it can also jeopardize the process. We want to reach out privately and see what their views are, and if they can be encouraged to find a way to join the peace process. Because, as I said earlier, we really want the people of South Sudan to at least enjoy dividend of peace. They have suffered for so long.
Yeah, but now it has been made public, and we saw it was signed by Archbishop Paul Yugusuki.
Yes. Well, it is still going on, and as I said earlier, I wouldn't want to talk much about it because there are people who have been assigned to follow that, and they are the one who know the details. So when it become public, it will be them to. They are in coordination with my office. That is what I can say. As peace envoy for the Council of Churches, Archbishop Paul is in contact with me, and we are praying and hoping that will bear fruits. And all we want is for the people of South Sudan to our peace.
Right. بجيبنا لحوالي 24 دقيقة لرأس الساعة. نرجع الميكروفون لاستديوهاتنا الرئيسية في العاصمة جوبا. ده البث المباشر من العاصمة الكينية نيروبي في مبادرة بتاع تومايني، وضيف بتاعنا في الاستوديو هو الارشبيشوب موسيس دينغ. نرجع لك الميكروفون لقراية بعض من الكومنتس أو تعليقات على الفيسبوك بيج، ونرفع بعض من المكالمات الزميل الحادي حواري.
نعم، شكرا ايمان جوزيف أكيلة. هنمشي نشيل بعض من المكالمات، لكن برضه نقرا اول حاجه لبعض من الرسائل النصيه. فيه كثير من الاسئله للمطران هناك، وده برضه هيكون فيه مشاركه كويس من مستمعين حقنا اللي هم دائما بيسالوا
brought the church leaders into politics. You know, this is a question that has been asked many times. Politicians and the people. Some of the people of South Sudan have been asking this question. Now, the issue is, it depends with what you mean by politics. A lecturer in UCU, Uganda Christian University, one time asked, he said, "What is politics?" And then eventually he answered, he said, "The politics is sharing of the national cake." It means you are talking of education, you are talking of your peace, as we talked about earlier, so that your house is not burned and you are not displaced. You are talking about health care, whether you go to hospital or not. So in that sense, can somebody really ask what brings somebody to politics? Because I need to go to my children. I have children, and they need to go to school. I want my children to live in a place where there is peace. I'm leading a big congregations in northern Bahr el Ghazal, where I am the Archbishop. There are more than 1 million followers of the church that look up to me as a leader. So what do you think is the difference between me and the politician? The politicians are leading people, and I'm also leading people. So it is what is good for my people. The people I'm leading is what I'm talking about. So I don't know where this question, why people are asking these questions always. Number two, they say, why don't you come back to solve the issues here? Why solve them in Nairobi? Well, I'm not the only bishop. There are other bishops who are on the ground. We talked earlier about the team that is going to engage with some of the leaders who are not part of Tumaini and not part of RXS, but also there are other bishops who are dealing on the ground. So I'm not the only one. We are many. and we are all over the country doing what we can to make sure that our country live in peace. Will the government delegation come back? I think that I radio need to call Honorable Martin Ilie, the spokesperson of the government, to come and answer that question, whether they will come back, go back to Juba again for consultation. And then, do you believe that Tumaini will address the root causes? Yes. In terms of writing it in the document, we have raised them, and the opposition have raised them, and even the government also. They have also acknowledged some of the shortcomings that have caused the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. But signing the agreement is one thing, implementing it is another. By the way, even RXS is not a bad document. It has addressed, by the way, some of the challenges, but the challenge is that it has not been implemented. And as I said earlier, it will take the people of South Sudan to take responsibility of their country and push for implementation of the agreement. Remember, in 2005, Dr. John Garang made a very powerful statement. He said every Sudanese by then should read, understand, and own the CPA. Why? Because he knows without you owning it, you cannot push for its implementation. So the people of South Sudan should actually own the peace agreement, beginning with our access, and then also with Tumaini and any agreement that will be signed in the future. What are your roles? We have a number of roles. We do chaplaincy. This is why we have prayers when the talks begin, and also on Sundays. We are advisors. We advise the parties. We make advocacy. We lobby. We do intermediary mediation, sometimes some mini mediation to just encourage or push some of the leaders. Someone has said earlier, what are you doing to push the South Sudanese leaders? We are trying our best. Most of the time we do it behind the scene, because really what we are looking for is not credit to say the church leaders have done it. We just want peace to be achieved. So we do some mediation behind the scene, and those are the roles that we play. That is answering even the question of what is your role in pressurizing the government to make sure that the conflict in Eastern Equatoria and Western Equatoria are resolved. I know there are church leaders in Juba right now working behind the scene to encourage the political leaders to address the issue of farmers' cattle conflict, as well as the one in Tumbura. And then church is part of negotiation and not part of implementation. Really, this is true. This is very correct. And it is not only the church, even the stakeholders
like civil society.
Like civil society. You know, stakeholders here is made up of different groups. We have the faith-based, including both Christian and Muslims. We have the academia, eminent person, the youth, the women, the civil society, the diaspora, the people with disabilities. All of this, when it came to the implementing mechanisms, we were put in some of the mechanisms. But there is one key mechanism that is actually the leader. Is called NTC, the National Transitional Committee. This committee was supposed to end when the government is formed, because it was to be a pre-transitional body. But because most of the things that activities or the tasks that were supposed to be completed before the government is formed were not completed, the NTC continued, but we were not part of it.
Yeah, that's during the pre-transitional period.
Yes, and this is where the challenge is, because when we are now meeting with the government at the RGM meetings, but we are supposed to meet on our own as South Sudanese before we go to RGM, where we have other foreigners. So this, we need really to consider. This question is a very good question, and we need to think through it this time. Why is the government delegation not happy with the name? Again, Honorable Martin Ilie is there. He will respond to that. Why they don't want the name of the opposition? What if Tumaini fails? Well, what we want is not Tumaini, is peace. And we are going to continue with whichever way peace can be achieved in South Sudan, because peace for us is not really the peace agreement. It is the culture of peace that we want. not only among the political leaders here, but even all the citizens of South Sudan. We want to cultivate the culture of peace because that is the mission our Lord Jesus Christ commissioned us in Matthew chapter 5 verse 9. He said, blessed are the peacemakers because they will be called the children of God. So for us, whether Tumaini fails or succeed, our mission is peace building, and we will continue with it for the rest of our lives. Right. It's not a project for us, it is our mission. So we will find another way to continue with the issue of peace building wherever we will do it.
Right.
Yeah. Then the last question is your role is to pray, and have you prayed? Actually, even when we started here, I prayed. It's only that I did not pray
in public, yes.
But I prayed in my heart. So we pray every day, and as I said earlier, we pray every time when the meeting begins. We do prayers on Sundays, but it is not the only role. That is what I want to make clear. Jesus said, you pray like this: your kingdom come, your will be done on us as it is in heaven. Now the prayer is, let your kingdom come, so that your will be done. Now that done part, who is going to do it? Do you think it is God? No. It is us. Yes. What prayer means is you pray for the will of God. You ask God, what do you want to be done in South Sudan? And once He shows you this is what He wants, it is you to do it. So when you say your will be done, it is be done by us. And it is not excluding the church leaders.
Right.
For to do the will of God, include us, and include all the South Sudanese.
Right. And there was a question also, Archbishop from Mawen, talking about, is this Tumaini really for the interest of the common people back home, the people of South Sudan, or is for the interest of the parties who are discussing, or the interest of politicians?
Both the Tumaini and even the RXs are all, the way they are written, actually they are written for the interest of the people of South Sudan. The only challenge is the lack of implementation. And by the way, that is why they are not being implemented. Because if they implement them in letter and in spirit, you are actually doing the interest of the people. And the leaders don't want to do the interest of the people. That is basically, so Tumaini is interest of the people.
Victor was complaining about leaders have failed to lead us. So it's a matter of Tumaini and RRCs, whether it's successful or not, or incorporated or not, or complementing if the Tumaini is complementing RRCs. But the trust deficit is actually big in terms of trusting in the
leaders.
Yes.
Well, the majority of South Sudanese agree. I have said even the government delegation acknowledged some of the issues raised by the stakeholders and the opposition, which is part of it is leadership failure. And then the next question is, what do you do? That is why we are saying we should unite and leave this tribalism and the tribal killing ourselves, and then demand our right from our leaders to take us to elections, as it has been mentioned in the recent extension on December 2026, so that these leaders come to us and tell us what are they going to do for us in the next 5 years if we elect them. And then we will decide. If they have convinced us, we elect them again. If they have not convinced us, we leave those who have not convinced us, we elect those whom we think will serve us. That is, and until we stop this tribal conflict among ourselves, we cannot do anything, because there are no chances for you to choose the leader you think will deliver or will lead you well, as he has mentioned.
Right. Any last message before we can go back to our main studio in Juba?
Okay.
Yes. Any last message?
Okay. My last message, of course, is to the people of South Sudan, as I mentioned. Please let us leave tribalism. Let us try our best to really unite so that we can build our country. We cannot continue to suffer almost 20 years after getting our own autonomy. And then to the leaders, people are getting frustrated. And as this gentleman mentioned earlier, that they are ruling us by force. You know, force has an end to it. You can force people, but when people say enough is enough, they will not listen to you. So instead of waiting to the time when people get completely frustrated and only you use threats We better listen to the people and do what the people want.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us today, Archbishop of Northern Bahr al-Ghazal, internal province of the Episcopal Church, and a peace envoy for South Sudan, Moses Deng. Thank you for joining us on the Dawn today.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for inviting me, and thank you all the people at the studio and all the listeners.